In the last 4 years, since 2020, over 10,000 young people have died from Africa trying to cross the seas to Europe and the rest of the world. Every other week, we'll see a scene like this on television of young people risking their lives trying to make it to a better life. So today, I'd like to talk a bit about some of the root causes underlying this issue and what I see as a potential to transform this into a great opportunity for Africa and the rest of the world in this century. As Sven mentioned earlier, and as Imran just mentioned, Africa is young and it's fast growing, right? By the end of the century, the young people in Africa will be double than the entire population of Europe, right? Yes, that's true. And the average age of an African is 19. And in the next decade, Africa will have a workforce larger than China and larger than India, right? So this is a massive population that's growing fast. How many of you in this room would work for $230 a month? Can I see a show of hands, please? No one? This is the salary of an average college graduate in Africa, right? Someone who's been to college, who worked hard, done UX design, they've done software engineering, and then they look for a job. It takes them 5 years to get a job. After they get a job, this is what they're paid across the continent. We survey young people across, employers who are looking for jobs, to hire people, and this is the data that we see. So if this is the context, it's happening simply because there's an excess supply of talent and not enough demand for it. Typical economics. When supply exceeds demand, the price drops, right? And this is because Africa's GDP is only 3% of the world's GDP. So in this context, it's no wonder that people are leaving, looking for a better life. At the same time, Europe is old and aging, right? The average age of a European is 43. Germany is 46.8. Germany is from Italy. I know how old you guys are. Much younger. And Monaco is 55, right? So the way in which we're able to navigate this moment, where you have one part of the world that has too much supply of talent and another part that has not enough talent. There's a shortage of 18 million nurses in the world. This is going to be one of the defining issues of this century. And so when 40% of the world's population is going to come from Africa by the end of the century, and 50% of its young people, this will be the African century. Because where Africa goes is where this century will go. The only question is whether it's going to be a good century or a bad century. But whether we like it or not, this is going to be the African century. So how can we make sure that it's a good century? I believe that the secret lies in how the world navigates and negotiates this issue, right? And I believe that it lies in what I call talent exports. Africa, simply put, needs to export its talent, and Europe and the rest of the world needs to import Africa's talent. Now you might say, what about brain drain and immigration? Yes, those are big issues. But talent exports does not necessarily mean immigration. It doesn't mean brain drain either. There are 3 ways in which talent exports happens. The first is that talent can stay in Africa and it can work remotely. I run a company called Sand Technologies. We build sophisticated industrial artificial intelligence for global companies and for global governments. So think of us like Palantir, except we don't do CIA and defense stuff, right? We do peaceful things. Like ensure that your water in the city of London flows. Our AI systems are managing the water supply for the entire city of London. 16 million homes. We're predicting when a pipe is going to burst in the city. We're preventing pollution from going to the oceans and rivers. We're helping the city plan where to build more infrastructure. So next time you turn on your tap in London and there's water flowing, it's because our AI systems are managing the system more properly. We're even putting sensors in the rivers in the UK that's tracking the health of the river. So you'll be able to put in your home address, and we can tell you the health of the river that feeds your home before you drink it. And this talent sits in Africa. And they don't earn $230 a month. They earn $2,000 a month. They earn $5,000 a month. And every person who earns that and stays in Africa can spend it in the shops. They can get their hair done. They can buy clothes. One talent like that, a job that is exported, but without the brain drain, it is equivalent to 10 to 15 jobs in Africa, right? Or we also work in telecommunications. Our AI systems are helping about 1.7 billion consumers around the world to ensure that when they make a phone call, the antennas are pointing at the right place and that it captures your voice properly, or that you can watch your YouTube video on your phone. We're designing AI, all the networks, our AI systems are helping to figure out where to lay fiber in continental USA. 4 million homes are connected because of the algorithms that our engineers built. And in India, Reliance Jio, we're helping to figure out where to put 5G towers in the country, and Indonesia as well. We recently trained about 250 doctors on how to become data scientists. And then we partnered with the Stanford School of Medicine to train them in precision medicine. The target for this talent is not to work in Africa. They're sitting in Africa. I'm about to start a collaboration with the American Cancer Society to ensure that they can help identify the exact treatment for cancer patients using precision medicine. So your life, should you ever get cancer, could depend on the accuracy of the medicine, that the precision to which these doctors are able to prescribe you, sitting in Africa. The second way in which talent exports happens is companies can go and set up operations in Africa and hire that talent locally. Some of you may know since we're at a fashion industry event, Bestseller Corporation, a large Danish corporation in fashion. We helped them set up a center in Rwanda of engineers who are building and maintaining their e-commerce websites from Africa. Or Google and Amazon have recently set up operations there to hire some of this talent. India has 2 million people who work for US corporations and global corporations like Boeing and McKinsey and so forth, sitting in India, but serving the rest of the world, right? And this is the second way in which talent exports happens. The third way in which talent exports happens, again, these first two, there's no immigration, there's no brain drain. The third way is the one that maybe we talk about, yes, where for jobs that cannot be done remotely, like nursing or construction or security or hospitality, then yes, people would have to leave. But if it's managed properly, it's a way in which everyone benefits, right? So the key at the end of the day, as Iman mentioned, is that the world needs to shift the way in which we think about Africa. Today, when we look at Africa, we think of it as a source of demand. And there's not much demand in Africa for our businesses. It's only 3% of the world's GDP. We need to instead look at Africa as a source of supply, immense supply of talent, but also of innovation and ingenuity. Because young people tend to be the most innovative in the world, right? This is a picture of Derek. It's a young man that I met recently. He's figured out how to generate electricity literally from thin air. That antenna that he's holding is absorbing the electromagnetic waves that come from cell phone towers. And he's harnessing and recycling it into energy to light homes. This is a global innovation in a time when we're talking about energy transition that is coming from Africa. It's another young man who's developed a chip that processes data with 50% more efficiency and 30% less energy. It's using something called spintronics, not electronics, using the natural energy of an electron and not needing to use electricity. So in the AI era, and he's building this VR headset that can process at much faster speed than anyone. So next time you are watching a live concert or something else in VR, it could be because of the Spintronics headset that this Moroccan gentleman has developed. Well, there's a Nigerian man who's built the first artificial intelligence chip that can smell things. So he's taken the cells from a dog's nose and fused it onto a chip. And it can detect 3,000 compounds. It can smell whether you're healthy or not. It can look at, well, it can detect bombs. It can detect drugs. It can maybe even help you develop the next world's best-selling perfume. Right? And all of this is the first in the world. Again, it's a global innovation developed by Africans, right? So this is, I can go on and on and on about phenomenal. This year, 2,000 tech startups came out of, we are training about 250,000 software engineers and data scientists in Africa who work for our SAN Technologies company, but they're also building all these great ventures. And you can just imagine what's going to happen as this talent pool grows for the world. So for all this to happen, two things need to occur. First, obviously we need to solve the political challenges of, navigating talent flows and immigration and all those things. But like I said, talent exports does not mean brain drain. It does not mean immigration. Yes, in some cases it does need to be, right? But if we manage it carefully and face the facts, we're going to go from something that is chaotic to something that is orderly and where actually the entire world benefits. The second thing that needs to change is the narrative, right? When we look at Africa, we typically see all of these images of starvation and warfare and all these things, which is not actually what Africa typically looks like. Yes, that exists. I remember growing up, I used to watch Hollywood, and I thought America was the land of milk and honey. I go to college in the US, and I land in Newark, New Jersey. When I got out of the airport, I said, what, is this the land of milk and honey? Because the US has been able to really drive its own narrative. So I'm very excited about the fact that now there's a new generation of young Africans that, thanks to technology, can tell their own story at a much faster rate and much cheaper than ever before, all right? We're seeing the rise of the African creative and the African storyteller and the African movie maker. This force is something that most of us do not realize how big this is going to be. Right. 1 million creatives are going to be trained in the next decade. And they're going to be able to tell their own story. Today, we're already seeing Burna Boy selling out O2 Arena, and he gets paid $1 million. Wizkid, Tiwa Savage. All of this talent that now, if you're a global musician, you have to collaborate with an African musician, right? Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez, everyone. They're realizing that this is driving the natural zeitgeist. So this is going to happen in film, it's going to happen in music, it's going to happen in gaming, it's going to happen in animation, and we can tell our own story. And by the way, this is another example of talent exports. Because Burna Boy used to be paid $50,000 or $10,000 performing in Africa. Now when he performs globally, he gets paid $1 million per show, and that's creating lots of jobs for people in Africa, right? All the fashion designers that design his fashion, all of the social media artists, specialists and his lawyer, everyone, they're staying in Africa and is creating livelihood. So, in summary, if the world is going to win, if you're not convinced yet, look at this team. This is the French national team that captivated us in the last World Cup. 15 of the players out of 24 came from Africa. So whether you want to win in business, you want to win in sports, you want to win in fashion, you want to win in music, you want to win in technology, your future depends on Africa. And this is why I say that this is the African century. Thank you.